Welcome to Around the Weird. Here's your host, the museum curator of the strange and unusual, Mr. Nothing.
Thank you, Mysterious Voice, and welcome back to Around the Weird, a booktube channel where I talk about all the unusual and out of the ordinary literature that I've found in my travels. Today it is Poetry Thursday, so I want to talk about some pretty interesting poetry that I've stumbled across. And today's poem is all about helping out family, but deciding that you don't want to be doing that forever or something like that. I am referring to An Exchange for My Absence by Cynthia Guardado. For those who don't know, Cynthia Guardado is a Salvadorian American poet who lives in California. They're a writer and activist, things like that. They've worked in the California state education system in the past, and they've written a couple of books of poetry, as well as I think a longer form book. And she often focuses on the Salvadorian experience, immigration, those kinds of issues, which are especially kind of relevant now, given what's happening with the Trump administration. But even before that, and going back, years upon years, even in the Clinton administration, immigration was it's been kind of a big thing for the entirety of American history, but especially now in 2026, it stood out more as immigrants have been kind of targeted and by roving gangs of ICE agents who work like terrorists rather than actually working to uphold the law, based on everything that I've been reading lately. Cynthia Guardado seems to be a fascinating writer based on some of the poetry that I've stumbled across. And without further ado, let's talk about this poem. I will read it, do a little bit of analysis, and we will move on from there. In Exchange for My Absence. Abuelo holds the end of a broom halfway bent over the pila, tries to scrub clean places in the walls he can no longer reach. I climb into the water basin in the pila's dark corners, hides an algae-eating fish. In order to begin, I must catch it. With a bucket, I make waves in shallow water, search for what is tucked away from sight. Abuelo says, "Me siento solo." His days lonely, long like the movie marathons he watches on TV. The fish circles in a bowl. Already I know I won't visit again tomorrow. No, I won't love him anymore. The magic of childhood gone like his clamorous laugh, murky like the chaparral he still drinks. Abuelo stares at the faucet. He tells me to guard the fish, says if it hears water running from the tap, it will jump. Its gills will be defenseless on the empty basin's concrete floor. Its fins will shudder in air. So in terms of analysis, that was An Exchange for My Absence. There's a little bit we're talking about with this poem. It's pretty short, but I think it kind of has like a very deep and very powerful kind of message, what the author is trying to say. In terms of narrative, it seems pretty simple. The narrator is hanging out with their abuelo, trying to help them clean and catch a fish in their home or in their garden or something like that. And the narrator notes, I've already decided that I will not, I've already decided that I won't be here, that I don't want to come back in the future. They're not going to visit again tomorrow. I don't know if they'll visit again the next day or a week from now or 2 weeks. Maybe it's, we've all kind of been there. We spread out the times that we visit our loved ones, especially as they age, because the memory of the past is not retained, unfortunately. But they're still here and committed to helping their abuelo for the time being. Here, it speaks kind of volumes because the poem is titled In Exchange for My Absence. And so I think absence kind of fills the poem. Like, what exactly isn't the narrator saying about Abuela? Why aren't they don't they want to hang out with their grandfather? You see kind of a little bit of that. Like, you see the magic of childhood gone, like his clamorous laugh. Murky like the chaparral, he still drinks. Abuelo stares at the faucet. He's just staring at it. This is what he wants to do now. And Abuelo also says, "Me siento solo." He feels alone, I think is what that means in Spanish. His day's lonely, long like the movie marathons he watches on TV. Like, it says a lot because the narrator isn't there with the grandfather. The grandfather probably doesn't have his grandmother anymore. The grandfather, or like the narrator, might be spending time with other family members, but it's clear those family members might not be with the grandfather. So there's a big gap in the family. Maybe not as close as people would want it to be. And, the absence kind of fills the space around them. Committed to having movie marathons more than anything else. What's going on for the narrator? Maybe they feel alone too, and so they spend some time with their grandfather, but that feels a bit cruel. Like, you're only doing it partially because maybe your friends are busy. Although maybe I may be placing a little bit of a projection on the narrator there. But loneliness is a huge part of the poem, and absence as well. Like, you're saying a little bit here, but what you're not saying is even more. And we shouldn't give people credit for what they're not saying, but by not saying it just fills the poem with more absence, more empty space. And that gets you to feel for the narrator, feel for the abuelo in this poem. And so you sense a lingering sort of sadness hanging about it. Anyway, those are my thoughts on in exchange for my absence. Quite a bit worth talking about in this poem. Some which I didn't really get to. You could probably talk about, tight-knit Spanish El Salvadorian families or something like that, which I did not. I know Cynthia Guardado talks about her own poems, maybe on her own YouTube channel. So I highly recommend that you go seek that out, and focus on her, rather than me, just a white American dude, talking about her poetry for her. Although you could say that about every poem, and then why am I doing Poetry Thursday? But it's still important to talk about poetry on this channel. So, let me know what you think in the comments below. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe so that more people can find out about this poem, this poet, or Poetry Thursday, if they don't already know. And until then, I wish you the best of luck in your weird and family visiting travels. Farewell.